Good morning, everyone. As I say, I'm Graham Robertson-Learsh. I'm the host for this morning. I work in the higher education unit at the European Commission. Thank you all for joining this morning. Just a quick thing, if you want to send a message, then use the chat room and make sure that you select all participants from the list in the drop-down box. We also have a Q&A function, which you're welcome to use as well, and we will be monitoring that throughout the meeting. Okay, I'll hand you over now to the Roland, who's going to take you through the event. Okay, Roland, over to you.
Thank you. Can you guys hear me well?
Yep, you're fine.
Good, thank you. Good morning to everyone. It is my honor to welcome you to the second webinar of the series Erasmus Goes Digital. Today we'll be focusing on the Erasmus Plus app as the key component in the European Student Card Initiative. Today we will illustrate the main functionalities and give you some insights of the background work of the app. My name is Roland Gacci, and I am the coordinator of the Erasmus Plus, representing the Eötvös Loránd University in Hungary. And as the leader partner in the project, and the work we will be showing you is a team effort that has won a tender out by the European Commission. And before giving you more information on the app or the agenda itself of the webinar, let me give the floor to our colleagues of the European Commission's Director General for Education and Culture. First, introduce the overall role for the Erasmus Plus app in the European Student Card Initiative, giving us the broader picture and giving us the Erasmus program at large. Please welcome Harpa.
Yes, thank you very much, Roland. I will now share my slides. Is everything clearly visible now?
Not yet.
Okay, let me check. Okay. Should be fine now, right?
It is. If you just move the video thumbnail off.
Yeah, indeed. My apologies for that, but okay, now we have the slides up and running. I'm still getting acquainted a bit with all of these technical things. Now we've done so many online meetings. I feel like I've gained so much in digital skills, which is nice. Always nice to learn new things. So thank you very much for organizing this webinar with us, Roland. Like he said, we're going to present today the Erasmus Plus mobile app, which is now undergoing significant enhancements. But before I give the floor over to the project partners who are working on this, I wanted to start by sort of placing the Erasmus Plus mobile app in the bigger context, because indeed this is a very important project and one of the key initiatives that we have for the European education area, actually. So I want you to bear this in mind while the project partners present it to you. Now let me try to change. Yeah. So we have organized with the European University Foundation, Erasmus Student Networks, and other higher education institutions a webinar series, let's say. Of course, we know that with the COVID-19 pandemic, there were some physical events and conferences that were in the pipeline, but these had to be canceled. And as a quick reaction, and I thank the colleagues very much for this, a series of webinars was organized instead so that we could promote different components of the European Student Card Initiative, and especially in the context of the upcoming Erasmus Plus program, where the plan is to have all of the universities that are participating in the program use some of the features that have been developed in the context of the Erasmus Without Paper project to manage their student mobility, starting with a new program under call 2021. So you will see that the first webinar series was on the European Student Identifier. And if you go to the link that you see on the screen, you will be able to find a recording from that webinar and some slides, which is very interesting content. So I would encourage you to have a look at that. Today, we're going to be focusing on the Erasmus Plus mobile app. So we will do a deep dive into the app developments and give you a peek behind the curtain of what is being developed. I think we should let you know from the very start, of course, this is ongoing work in progress. We don't have a final version. We may not have all of the answers yet at this moment, but it's still important to make sure that you are aware of what is being developed, what is the state of play, so that you can provide us maybe some feedback and give us your questions so that we can help inform us in the further developments. And then we will have a final webinar on June 25th, where we will do a deep dive into the online learning agreement, which of course is something that you students should start to use when they go on mobilities under Call 2021, which is, let's say, the academic year 2021-2022. Now, I mentioned a bigger context in the beginning of my presentation, and that is, of course, the European Student Card Initiative. The Erasmus Plus mobile app plays a central role in this initiative. So just to give you sort of the broader picture, we tend to present these slides when we're talking about the initiative because it demonstrates that there are sort of two main components, key components to this initiative. One of them regards digitalizing and streamlining the mobility of student mobilities. I'm sure that all of you that are working in higher education institutions, especially as mobility coordinators, are well aware that today, when you're administrating student mobilities, you have to use different systems. Oftentimes, we are exchanging emails to facilitate student mobility. And this is a great source of double work, sometimes frustration and confusion, mistakes, and it's not a very efficient way to work together. So one aspect of this initiative is to make sure that we really use technology today to aid in the management of student mobility, make it as simple as possible for higher education institutions. But also extremely important is to do the same for the students as well. We want students to be able to participate in mobilities using administration steps that are digitalized and streamlined, so they don't have to look all over the place, all over the internet for information, facilitate different processes, and maybe have to go and get physical signatures on documents, etc. So we're taking a look at the whole program and the whole mobility life cycle holistically and making sure that we establish a system that works as well for everyone as possible. Now, on the other hand, there's a bit of a different question that indeed is connected to the digitalization process, but it touches upon maybe some different questions. And this is the ability to authenticate and identify yourself as a student when you are abroad. So you are either preparing a mobility or you are already abroad. It's important that you are able to easily identify yourself, to be able to get access to the services that you are entitled to. And also, if we're thinking about streamlining the whole mobility administration, it's also important to verify who you are as a student, who is signing what, etc. So that is where the rolling out of the European Student Card and the European Student Identifier comes to play. Now, we're not going to be focusing on these topics today. We're going to be focusing on the app and the services that are being developed, but just for you to sort of be able to put that puzzle into the bigger picture that we're trying to build together, I think is important for you to understand and keep in mind. Now, how do we get there? Of course, there are some, in terms of the digitalization, we are talking about the Erasmus Without Paper project that is connecting the universities into a digital infrastructure, because that is what will allow streamlined and digital processes to work. Everybody has to be connected into the same infrastructure. And of course, we wouldn't gain the same benefits for the students unless they are able to connect to the infrastructure as well. And this is where the Erasmus Plus mobile app comes to play. Then we have projects that are focusing on the identification and authentication. And there you will see the My Academic ID project and the European Student Card project. But zooming in on the mobile app that is the focus of today's webinar. The Erasmus Plus mobile app, it was first released in 2017, and it was released, well, it was developed and released in the context of the Erasmus Plus 30th anniversary campaign. Now, when it was initially released, it contained, and of course, it's still out there, so these functionalities and features are still available to you and your students. When it was released, it contained a step-by-step checklist for students, which then later on, for those that are using the dashboard, they were able to also make these checklists individualized and add steps that were relevant for their students. So and then beyond that, students were able to access all the information that they should need about the program as such, the opportunities that the Erasmus Plus program offers. And then on top of that, they were able to exchange tips. So students that had been abroad were able to share, practical tips with other students, as well as the ESN, Erasmus Student Network, being able to display their events, etc., to students through the app, so that make sure that students, when they're abroad, they know where they can, get acquainted with, other students, social activities, get really integrated into the host institution and the local society. Now, when we started this whole discussion about the European education area and the European Student Card Initiative, it became apparent that we needed to create a system for the next generation of Erasmus Plus students who are, digital natives. They expect to be able to manage these kinds of things online. And also we have a key objective of making the program as inclusive as possible. And through the Erasmus Plus Higher Education Impact Study and also the midterm evaluation of the Erasmus Plus program, we knew that the accessibility of the program was not just about finances and special needs support, etc. There's also a portion of the student population that said that they lack information and they find it difficult to participate in mobility. So that is also representing a barrier to participation. And indeed, I can testify this myself, having been a mobility coordinator, that it's sometimes a very complex process for students to go abroad, find information in different places, having different documents that they have to get signed abroad and sent back via email and scanning it back and forth. And there are students that get discouraged by this. So hopefully we are able now to create a system where we try to make it as easy as possible for students to go abroad. So then it was a no-brainer that we would take the Erasmus Plus mobile app that was already out there and significantly enhance it so that it would have all of the features and functionalities necessary to bring about this system that we want to put in place for students and universities. So we launched the public call for tender for these significant enhancements in 2019, and then work began. We had our kickoff meeting in January 2020 with the contractors. So now for about 6 months, this work has been ongoing. So today you will be able to get a first glimpse at what is being developed and understand a bit better about what's coming. Yeah, and then we will be happy to. I mean, we ourselves are happy to hear your reaction, see your questions, so that we understand how things are progressing, and how you see what we are developing. So I think that this was the end of my part. I thank you very much. I understand that there are about 300 participants with us today, so very excited, and I thank you for your participation in today's webinar and for your interest. And then, yeah, I give the floor over to Roland again. Thank you.
Thank you, Harpa. Good news, we reached 500 as well, so you're doing good. Can you guys hear me clearly? Right. Can I get a feedback? Sorry, that you guys can hear me clearly, so I can. Yes. Okay. Great. Thank you very much. So first of all, thank you, Harpa. Thank you, Graham. And also thank for the opportunity to develop such an important app that I'm sure that it will help a lot of students, universities, or student organizations, and many more stakeholders out there. And we're very pleased and feel honored to be part of this whole project. And as you know, and as well as Harpa has mentioned, that we had an app that was originally launched in 2017. And then the key digitalization initiatives reached the level of maturity that called for that enhancement of the app to become a single point of entry for higher education students and other learners, to assist them when preparing, undergoing, and returning from their mobility experience. So with this big picture in mind, I'm sure you're all excited to learn and get some more details on what to expect from the new and updated Erasmus Plus app. A little bit about the partners. The extensive expertise accrued by the members of this consortium in the field of digitalization and student mobility has resulted the green light to implement in the proposal that was put forward for the services related to the enhancement of the Erasmus Plus app. And to better outline the work on the way, all three partners will be presenting you today. And we're going to, sorry, my computer froze. Yes, sorry. So first of all, we'll start with Kaspars Avelnica, representing the European Student Network as the biggest European student organization acting in the field of student mobility and internationalization of higher education. ESN has been partner of all major European student card initiative projects, namely the EWP, the Online Learning Agreement, and the Erasmus Plus app. Kaspars will highlight the importance of the new app and the promotional sides of the project as well. Then it will be my turn, and I will navigate you around the functionalities of the new app and give you a taste of the possible outlook for release 1. And ELTE, Eötvös Loránd University, as the oldest continuously operating and largest university in Hungary. It aims to represent the Hungarian higher education and the needs and values of Central European research higher education institutions with active participation in networks, alliances, and organizations, in many cases as the only Hungarian member university. So through this position and role, it is also very important for the university to actively participate in the Erasmus Plus digitalization activities. And thirdly, in the third section, I will give the floor to our other partner in the consortium, the European University Foundation, and to my dear colleague, Jeroen van Lent, representing the foundation, to provide you a more sophisticated, a little bit more technical insight to the app and to go beyond and to talk about new features that release 2 will bring us. EUF is a network of over 40 universities that stands for diversity and social fairness in higher education and aims to accelerate the modernization of the European higher education area. EUF is currently leading digitization, which is part of the European Student Card Initiative, namely the Erasmus Without Paper project, the Online Learning Agreement, My Academic ID, and has developed and maintained the current version of the Erasmus mobile app as well. And I also wanted to highlight that in the very last section, in the last part of our webinar today, we'll leave you some time to answer your questions. We'll not break into different session groups like we did in the former webinar, but please feel free to share your questions on the following platform that you see on the slide, on the slido.com, and also using the event code. That the questions will be collected and answered at the end of the webinar. And actually, it is open now, so you can start shooting your questions. Please keep that in mind, as also Harpa has highlighted, that today we are not presenting you the final version of the app, only the current state of it. And so direct questions regarding the color, the user experience will not be the focus at the moment, at least not regarding the questions at the very end. We all understand it's a broader concept, but today we will like to focus on a smaller dose, on a smaller scale, and focus on the Erasmus Plus app itself. So you can share your questions, and the system will upvote the question that comes up more frequently, and we will try to tackle the most pressing questions. And now, let the webinar officially start, at least on focus of the Erasmus Plus app. And let me give the floor to Kaspars from ESM to start his presentation. Thank you.
Yes, good morning, everyone. It's very exciting to hear just how many participants we have. So just give me a moment to set up my presentation. In the meantime, I can just already elaborate on what Roland said, that indeed the Erasmus Student Network is one of the largest student organizations, and it works in 42 countries with more than several 100,000 students. So we have quite a large scope, and in many ways a very keen interest to have an inclusive and digital Erasmus. I hope you can see my presentation. I will just hide my video box once it starts moving, so you can see the screen. So I will build on what Harp already said, that Erasmus Plus is in many ways an awesome experience. It allows you to build new skills, make new international contacts, build intercultural understanding. And in many ways, it's a life-changing experience. And if you ask anyone who has participated in the program, as we often do, that's usually the first thing that you hear. But it's an awesome experience once you know what to do. Any exchange student has memories of going down halls, trying to find in which room they have to get certain parts of their learning agreement approved or signed, where to find the course catalogs for the receiving institution. What activities are possible while you're in exchange, what student interest groups or organizations are there for them to join. So in many ways, it's important that a student has as streamlined an experience as possible and to have access to information. So in many ways, we very much support the point that the program must be inclusive and accessible for all. And through digitalization, the provision of information, it's one, but not the only paradigms through which to achieve this. And this, of course, brings many benefits for the higher education institutions. A more automated, simplified process decreases workload. This, of course, then translates to the ability to work with more students and work with them better, and to present to students a simpler and more modern program that is relevant for 2020. Coming to the student perspective, we have access to more information, which we always appreciate, to know more about where we're going to go, what we will need to do, and what are the opportunities that we have. It allows wider groups, a wider scope to join, especially for underprivileged groups that need even more support and information to participate in the program. It's the main way how to build intercultural exchange by having an even broader and diverse group of individuals going on exchange to all locations. And it also helps with recognition, both improving the recognition of formal learning, so the ECTS you gain, but also to provide students with the opportunity to reflect on the informal learning they receive. So the skills they gain, the competencies they gain by talking with individuals from different cultures, by moving to a new location, in many ways starting their full adult life for the first time. Leading back to the current app that was already mentioned, it was a concept ahead of its time that helped with this by offering, as Harper mentioned, a step-by-step checklist combined with tips written by students, as well as news and events from student organizations such as ESN. It was a privilege for us to work in the last apps. So when we heard the call and the offer to join, we of course jumped on the opportunity to work again with DGAC, EUF, and ELTE, as we've had a good experience with them. And yeah, we were excited for the opportunity to upscale the app and to bring it to the forefront of the Erasmus program. This, of course, took time and a lot of work behind the scenes. So what may have seen as a certain gap of changes in the app since its launch was actually just preparations for something much, much larger, which we will try to start presenting a bit here. But of course, as was already mentioned, many of the things are still in progress. One of the key things that student organizations such as ESN brings are information and services. So there are just 4 examples. They're not the only ones. I'm sure I forgot something. But usually as an exchange student, you're interested about knowing more about mobility opportunities such as Erasmus+, to know more about universities, how accessible they are. Can you, for example, move around the campus with a wheelchair? They leave most of their friends and family behind. So they also look for new activities and interest groups that will allow you to socialize, build new friends and connections. They also look for the future. So they look at the possibility of having traineeships and professional career development. So, for example, ESN has a platform called Erasmus Intern, where we try to tackle this by giving the possibility to do Erasmus internships via an online platform. And of course, students always have special offers in their campus and in their city that usually you know if you're a local student, but they might not be that easy to find if you are a new student that just arrived to the country and does not know much about it at the time. And this is where the new Erasmus Plus app comes in. This is just an early stage mock-up, so don't see it as the final version. And in a few minutes, Rowan will focus more on the mock-ups, but I just wanted to give you something visual so you can identify with the app. Now, if we take the same 4 examples of online services, one of the ways how you could improve the experience is to allow them to talk with one another, because the problem often is that while there are different services, some of them online, some of them not online, they're all individual things, meaning that if you know one of them, you don't immediately know about the other. You might know a website about accessibility for the campus, but not know that there's another platform which shows offers in the same campus. And well, one approach could, of course, be to try to make all of these systems talk to one another. As someone from a technical background, I can say that that's very difficult. And that's where the beauty, in many ways, of the Erasmus Plus app comes in, because you don't need to have the different services talk with one another. You can just have them talk with the app. So it will, in many ways, serve as the single entry point for the Erasmus experience. So all of the different information, offers, services, discounts, whatever comes to mind, will have the opportunity down the line to be displayed in the app. So student organizations such as ESN, student unions, AEG, would be able to put their activities, for example, on display in the app. And by having this unified standard, how the different components can talk with the app, we can integrate these things into the app to have a unified, solid experience that feels the same throughout the whole mobility journey. Now, as a student organization, you can have the best app in the world, but it doesn't mean much if the students do not know about it. And that's where our goal in this initiative for the new app comes in, that we will work very hard to ensure that the student voice is heard, that they know about the app, that they get to experience it as it comes out, and that they know about it. So in many ways, we build a certain culture around the app as the single point of entry for the Erasmus experience. ESN has quite a broad presence, both physical and online. So we will use several channels to reach out. So we'll have articles about different topics regarding exchange, regarding the app itself, how to use the app, and so on. Targeted media campaigns on our social media about this, different videos and newsletters. So it will allow us to disseminate information online, which is in many ways the cheap channel through which international students often talk to one another. And secondly, we will also disseminate the app in physical meetings, both for events for IROs, for example, AIE or ERACON, as well as student conferences that often we as ESN organize, because we have the opportunity to bring the student representatives, the IROs, and the students themselves together to discuss several topics, including the app. So it would be an awesome opportunity to really get the students' input there. And of course, we will be continuously present in events that tackle the app directly, such as this webinar, for example. We have worked on 2 communication campaigns to build up on this. They're still quite broad, so look at the timelines as guidance and not as the final timeline, because we aim to tackle the higher education institutions, the students, and the student representatives. First, at the start of the next semester, to build up to the release of the app, to raise awareness of it, to gather the tips that you heard previously that will be displayed in the app, so that when the students that start using the app from the winter semester in 2021 can already see them. And then, once the promotion of the Erasmus Plus app starts, we will start disseminating it to incoming students. We have a similar plan for the next academic year as well, where we'll already be able to build on the experiences that students have had with the app, to promote this, to showcase this, and to also introduce newer services and newer opportunities that get added to the app across the line based on the timeline for the development, which you will hear soon. I hope I managed to set the stage for the chief point of the app, its importance as a single point of entry. I will be here for the Q&A if you want to ask anything specifically to me, but here are also my contact details if you want to reach out to me later on. Thank you for your time, and now I will pass it back to Roland. Thank you. And share my screen so we can continue here.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Kaspars, for the nice introduction. Let me set up my slide back. Thank you. We are also happy to be working with ESN in this initiative and making sure the new app will be as student-centered as possible, as also Kaspars has mentioned. The team has put a lot of effort into making university and IRO processes simpler. So it is key to also focus on the student interface and making sure the tools of the next program meet their needs and expectations. Regarding the consortium, it is also important to highlight that we work with subcontractors as well that bring a lot of expertise related with EWP and the new OLA tool, and also working with some very professional IT providers that have a long-standing experience of delivering digital solutions to the European institutions in general, and the Commission in particular. Hope I can change my slide. Sorry. Yes. So the general objectives of the tender and the project are to enhance the Erasmus Plus app and its accessible desktop version, so that they become the already mentioned single point of entry for higher education students, and also for other learners who wish to undertake periods of cross-border mobility for studying or training. Through this single point of entry, learners should be able to easily find the information they require to have a successful mobility experience, complete all of the different administrative processes associated with their mobility, and use the app to access campus services, special deals, and offers in and around the campus of their host institution. And now I will present more on the app's functionalities of the first release that will take place at the end of the year. On the slides, you can see the preview, as also Kaspas has already showed the preview of the current ongoing app as of now. And this part of the presentation kind of gives you the idea, the direction we are going. Feedback is welcome, but not so much regarding the colors and the logo, as it is likely that it might change in the way. There's a lot of discussions there still. So, but otherwise, this would be some sort of a welcoming screen after downloading the app and pressing the start button. You can select a program. For example, I could choose higher education studies program, and then provides me a short description of the program itself. You will also have a general preferences page that includes privacy policies, select languages, etc. And once you complete those, you're set up within the app. Most information in the app will be publicly available, but for interacting with more advanced features, students will be required to log in using the My Academic ID protocols, which are based on EduGain, but that part was more the object of the first webinar series 2 weeks ago. The idea of this is that when students authenticate in the app, we already know which university they are from, which allows us to directly allocate them to the appropriate institution. Okay. Then you see a welcome screen once you set up. And you can see on the slide, the idea is that students will be able to see stories of the community, discounts, or events either from student organizations or even from other students. Then we'll also have notifications that will be able to be prompted from one side by the higher education institutions themselves. Sorry, I get feedback. Can I get a feedback whether you can see my presentation or not?
Yeah, Roland, yes, you're fine. I think it's just one person's having a problem.
Okay, cheers. Thank you very much. Okay, so back to the notifications. So we will have notifications that could be prompted from one side, the higher education institutions themselves, or by the European Commission as well. That can come useful, especially in situations like COVID-19, to share important information with users, with students on the way. And we'll be also adding new tools and services such as Erasmus Skills, in addition to old ones, such as the online learning agreement. And another big piece of the cake, the approach to the first release of the new app was to take what already exists and kind of bring it to a next level. The checklist of the existing app will be put together and expanded through something called the mobility journey. It will be dynamic, guiding the student through all phases of mobility, before, during, and after. What we want here is a user experience perspective that a student can actually decide to activate or add to the journey and make it more customizable, and not just having static information. Okay. Another thing is to provide students. Sorry, can you guys make sure that you mute yourselves if you're not presenting? Thank you. Okay, so
hold on a second, Roland. I'm just going to mute everybody. Okay, try again.
Thank you. And moving on, as you see also on the slide, is to provide students with accurate, detailed information on possible destinations based on filters as well. For example, accommodation, volunteering opportunities, or information about accessibility, etc. And also, last but not least, it will have a functionality that allows students to interact and provide feedback about their mobility process, their mobility journey, to add their tips or Erasmus Plus stories and share their feedback with their mobility experience. So this is what we hope to be able to complete still in 2020, but there's a lot more to come, and there's a lot more that we could cover. And I would like to give the floor now to my colleague, to the EF, to tell us what else we can expect from the new Erasmus Plus app, and to finish up on the functionalities if I missed out. So thank you very much. Jaren?
Yes, thank you very much, Roland. I'm sorry, I was not promoted yet, so I could speak. Let me also share the screen with you, so I can also have some slides visible there. Wait a second. This is always the challenge of having webinars. Let me see. Can you see the screen now? I would assume so. Otherwise, someone please stop me. So yeah, thanks a lot, Roland, for listing the features that are there foreseen in release number 1. On behalf of the European University Foundation, I would like to tell you a little bit more about what we have planned for the second release of the app. And I think the more technically challenging integrations that are there. My role in this whole project is that I coordinate the technical development together with our subcontractors and other technical people involved. So I will try to not be too technical for you to get a bit of an overview of what we are planning, but in case there are questions, very happy to answer those as well. So practically, the second release of the app, I'm going to give you a little bit of a sneak preview of what we have lined up there. Building on release number 1 and what is there in the existing version of the app, we will be looking for a couple of new features that we will roll out in the second release of the app. The first thing that we are particularly excited about is an applications and nominations module for the mobility, which will take place before the state of the online learning agreement. This is an opt-in functionality, so what it effectively means is that higher education institutions need to opt in to use this, but if they do, students will be able to see the possible destinations based on the data from the interinstitutional agreement. And we'll also be working hard to make sure that there is more additional information available there that comes from different sources. For example, accessibility information based on the mapped platform, or living costs that are submitted by the students themselves. So what we try to do is really create a detailed overview of what an institution has to offer, and let the student choose the destination, apply, and deal with the nominations on the side of the institution. What that also means is that we're going to try and make sure that we have the requirements for the students there in place as well, so they know what kind of documents they need to submit in order to apply for the mobility, and collect those there, and eventually send those out using the Erasmus Without Paper network or to the Erasmus Plus dashboard for the institution, so for you to approve this mobility to nominate a student to go abroad. The big advantage of this whole flow is that the student will also be able to follow within the app what the status of the application is and how things are looking in relation to the progress of that. So, of course, a lot of technical integrations are needed. So I think it's fair to make a disclaimer that we're going to do our best to make that work as much as possible for all the different solutions that are out there. But for now, we are aiming to make a module within the Erasmus Plus dashboard. So institutions can manage these nominations there, but also to hook it up with the Erasmus Without Paper network for other solutions to interact with it. The second big thing that we think is coming is that it's time for a digital student card. Of course, within the European Student Card Initiative, student cards need to be going to a digital sphere as well. What is important here is that we envision cards to be issued by the institution. So you will be fully in charge about what student cards are displayed and what can be done with this student card. And function more like a wallet where we display existing cards of students within the scope of the app. Of course, there's many functionalities that student cards within institutions or particular cities might have that we cannot easily show within the app. But we would foresee a more show and go use case for most of the standard stuff that students use cards for. It can be access to a museum. It can be different things that students would want to do. But that's what we foresee. And then, of course, the most important thing is to get access to services across the EU. So we can show this card, digital European student card, and give students access even when they go abroad, when they just arrive in their new city. Wait. Yes. The other thing that we will be working on is to make the app fully multilingual. We're working closely with DG EAC to make sure that we have translations of all the information that's going to go to students. But our first objective would be to translate the interface text in all the EU languages available, so people have the information at their fingertips. Of course, it's necessary to mention that content that's generated by users will be more difficult to translate, but we're looking into making sure that the content is as multilingual as it can get within the scope of the app. Then another interesting point is that after the mobility transcript of records, of course, need to go back to the sending institution. And we're looking into providing a solution for sending this transcript of records or displaying those transcript of records in the app when they're going through the Erasmus Without Paper network. I have to say that a lot here is unknown because the transcript of records are a complex matter, but we'll do our best to also provide as much information to the students as we can here. And in an ideal case, give them a nice update of their transcript of records the moment it's being transferred and what the contents of it are. Then the last point for me is that, and this is going to be a bit more technical, so I apologize in advance, is that we're looking into implementing as much universal entry points to the app as possible. What that means is that we're looking into ways to let third-party applications from institutions, from third-party service providers, from student organizations to interact with the app and to push content or different notifications to it. This will be structured in a way that it doesn't require custom integrations for each and every application that we want to add, but rather one solution for everyone to make sure that we can expand the content. The main objective of this is to really make sure that we have everything in one place and that the students can find the things they're looking for, regardless of who's providing the service. For me, that's all the stuff that is there for the second release. We are very much looking forward to working on these things, and I will give the floor back to Roland to go over the timeline and stuff.
Hi, Roland. Can you unmute your microphone?
Sorry, probably double clicked it. Can you hear me now?
That's fine.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much, Aaron, for the last part of the presentation in there. So for everyone else, this has been the first sneak peek in the Erasmus Plus app. That will be an online one-stop shop for students to manage all administrative steps related to their mobility period. As a takeaway from the webinar, I would highlight that the first release will probably take place before the end of 2020, when you can expect a fresh app with that will entail all the functionalities of the current one and already expand on the services that we'll be offering the students via diverse sources of useful information. And second release is expected for mid-2021 and will include an application to mobility module based on data from interinstitutional agreements and includes what Aaron also has been presenting to you. I would also like to highlight for you guys to stay tuned for more updates to follow will be coming. But now the key focus, the path is on development. But as the launch approaches, we'll be reaching out to you with more details, with more information. And ESN local sections might also find you and get in touch, ask you to explore the app or help promote towards your student organizations.